Started.
This conference will now be recorded.
You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Come across?
We can.
Yes. Okay. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I can call on Maria, please, for the invocation.
Thank you for being with us today. For everyone that is gathered here at this meeting, help us to interact with each other peacefully, and may we agree in all our discussions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Maria. First order of business, we'll go ahead and call the workshop to order.
Chairman and Directors, workshop item number 1 is the quarterly investment report for the period ending December 31st, 2024. In your packet is our report. If you look at page 2, under the first column, which is local government investment pool, we had a beginning balance of $139,918,660. We transferred out $500,000, and then for expenses, and then we earned $1,706,265 in our pool cash investments, which is the logic. And under our government securities, we had a beginning balance of $20,515,626. We had an interfund transfer, which is excess cash. And then we had contributions of $7,554,957. That's a reimbursement from TxDOT as part of a grant for the 365 tollway. And so we had investment earnings of $256,061. So the total interest earned for the quarter is $1,962,261. The weighted average yield for the local investment pool is 4.84%, and for the government securities is 4.31%.
Thank you, Pilar. Any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none. You
Yes, sir.
request an approval?
No, sir.
No?
This is a report
Okay.
only. Yeah.
Just a report.
Yeah. The action item is in your regular agenda.
All right.
Okay. Workshop item number 2 is a presentation by Pathfinders Public Affairs. Due to a conflict, Rene Ramirez wasn't able to be here. And so we'll have him rescheduled for the February meeting to make a presentation on legislative items of interest to the authority.
Okay. Any other item in workshop?
No, sir. That's all we have for your consideration under workshop or for your review.
All right. Hearing nothing else for the workshop, I guess we can have a motion to we finish the workshop and then we'll go into a regular meeting. What's the protocol there? Do we need to hear a motion to?
No,
Nope.
sir. You can just
Okay.
call the regular meeting to
We'll
order.
call the regular meeting to order then. And do we have any public comment?
We do not have any public comment, Chairman.
Okay, item number 1 for our regular meetings, Chairman's report. And I can take this opportunity to report that together with staff, we followed up with several stakeholders, a room full over in Mission. This would have been last week, and Of course, this is in reference to the letter that we received here at the RMA addressed to the chairman that goes back several months. In the interim, I had been getting on board, trying to get up to speed. Then we finally met with them, but we talked with staff and then had the county judge and several of the mayors or mayor's representatives from the Western Hidalgo County in reference to their request to um, have the western portion of the loop looked at sooner. As we all know, everybody wants all areas of the loop now. We haven't had approved our strategic plan outlined as per staff's recommendations. We're all aware of what our plan was calling for, but nevertheless, due to the request and the ability to potentially have some funding that could be made available, we certainly want to listen and want to take a look, listen to the stakeholders and take a look. We did. We've met with them, like I said, and in fact, believe that we have put something together to present to them, and it's in their court, if you will. We have not heard anything back formally, although I've heard unofficially that that they're looking at it, that they're are appreciative of our efforts to listen and to see if there's ways that we can come together to work on that specific request. Now, certainly we made it known there that this is something that's rather fluid and nothing could be done unless the full board is totally brought up to speed. But at which time we hear from them in terms of the direction or how they want to proceed. There's really nothing further to report, but I'll turn it over to staff, Pilar, and let you give your comments related to the meeting.
Yes, Chairman, Directors. Again, we met with the City of Mission, City of McAllen, City of Edinburgh, and the County Judge's Office to discuss accelerating Section A and Section C, which was the subject matter of the letter sent by the County Judge earlier or late last year. Really what we proposed is to enter into a memorandum of understanding that would outline the roles and responsibilities. And basically, the short version is we proposed for the authority, the RMA, to remain the lead on the project, and that the county participate with in-kind services isn't the right word, but donations of work that they've undertaken, to donation of that work to the authority, and then to see if the City of McAllen, City of Mission, and City of Edinburgh want to participate with any contributions, financial contributions, to help accelerate that project and try to deliver it earlier than later. And so we presented that draft memorandum of understanding for them to review and hopefully provide some comments. And the intent is once we can get the work details worked out, then we'd bring it back to the Board of Directors for consideration.
Seems to me like there's a lot of vagueness in what you just said as to what we expect their participation to be. Is there going to be some more specificity on our part, on their part, or by both parts?
Primarily on their part. What we did convey to them, Director, is that as part of our budget that the board adopted in December, is that we've pledged $1 million this next fiscal year to start work based on the strategic plan, which is A, E, and C in that order is how they've been ranked, to start work on environmental clearance on those. And so basically, if they want to accelerate the timeline on it, accelerate the development, see if they would like to participate, similar to what we did, we were using the same model we used on the IBTC, where the city of Edinburgh, city of Pharr, city of San Juan, city of Alamo, and city of Donna participated financially and to help accelerate that project and move it along a little bit fine. And those cities all contributed cash towards the project for 10 years. They started contributing in 2014 and their last contribution was last year in 2024. And of course, we got that project environmentally cleared and TxDOT funded it. And so it's headed to construction. So we offered that model to them to help accelerate the segments in the western part of the county. And so the amount of participation is yet to be determined. They're going to go back and see how much they can contribute. But the cities that I all mentioned contributed on the IBTC, as an example, contributed $25,000 a year for 10 years cash to help accelerate work on that project. So we offered them the same model over there. If you want to accelerate the project, here's one way to do it. And we showed them how we were successful with the IBTC using that model. And then ultimately we got construction funded.
The question that I have really is, do they determine or is it up to us to determine exactly how much we would need to be able to accelerate this project?
So we gave them the costs. So we gave them all the hard costs that we estimated. And so they're going to go back, cities have financial constraints. They're financially constrained. They don't have, bottomless buckets of funding. And so they're going to go back and look to see if they're going to participate, and then if they are, how much they're going to participate. And we're kind of waiting for them to get back to us.
Are they the ones that petition us, or we requested and invited them to participate?
We invited them to participate as a way to accelerate the project, because that was the concern. They want it done sooner. They want the project sooner than later. So this is a way to get it done sooner than later.
What kind of costs were presented to them?
So the costs, which are, we looked at A and C, and there's more detail, but we were looking at you want those done. We've got to come up with $1.2 billion to get it delivered now. And so, but step one is environmental clearance, and I think environmental clearance is about $3.5 million for segment A. And I forget what it is for segment C, but I believe it's about another $5 million to get that environmentally clear. And so we show them those numbers. So
We never signed an agreement, right? We never committed to the EDC. I think we had sat down and visited with them, McAllen Economic Development Corporation. I guess it was a year ago, maybe.
yes, sir.
And we never committed to anything. Nothing ever came about that.
So we proposed a memorandum of understanding also with McAllen Economic Development Corporation. We've sent, Blakely Fernandez, our legal counsel, drafted up an instrument. We sent it over to them, and we were waiting to hear back from them too.
Do you have an idea as to what you think would be somewhat feasible for them to participate financially? And if so, is that something that we would basically discuss in an executive session?
Short answer to your question, Director, is any participation helps. I mean, because, we don't have those projects funded. So anything we could do to start work today and get the work done faster would help.
Well, I understand that, but what would we have to do in return for that? I mean, it's a quid for a quote type of deal, no? Or is they
No.
just going to fund
No, they're just going to participate with
whatever they can without
whatever
no
they can.
conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the idea is that we would we broke it down in phases, where you said, phase one is get it environmentally clear.
So we're just asking for funds with no consideration in return?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Rick.
I seem to remember, maybe I'm mistaken, if I am, correct me. When the letter came from John Cortez, and in follow-up discussions, it was mentioned that there was an understanding that they had funds, or that they had supposedly had funds available. And was that brought up in any discussion?
So yes, in the discussions, we mentioned that the letter did not have a specific amount in it, but it alluded that there was funding available. And so we, based on the research we were able to do, we let them know that we understand you have funding available. We told them we think you have $10 million available to leverage on this project. But we didn't receive any feedback on that when we threw that number out there.
I have just one question. Can you remind me, Pilar, what are the project limits? You said Section A and Section C?
Section A, so based on our strategic plan that we adopted last month, Section A goes from Ansalduas Highway, basically over to Interstate 2 between Palmview and Peñitas, about 8 miles. It's about 8
But
miles.
there's a little gap in between there? Or?
Yeah, it's Section 4, which is about a 2-mile gap.
Okay.
That's already environmentally clear, but we still need construction dollars for that little
But
2-mile gap.
that little portion is not in question. It's the one further north of that.
Yeah, and then Section C
Is the big loop.
is
that
the big
goes-
loop,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions?
I guess my only next question, Chairman, is, so the next step is we're waiting?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think,
Timeline on that at all? I'm sorry.
no, we didn't put any kind of timeline, and this is, appropriate to make the comment, from my perspective, having been involved with it and kind of carrying the message and being there along the way, is the important thing is for all stakeholders that we work with, and are here for, is the message is, we're in it together. And the task at hand for as I've attempted to get up to speed and try to understand what it is that the RMA does, how it carries out its mission, what it's doing day in, day out. I already said at the top of the discussion, I mean, we all want everything we see on there, and we want it sooner rather than later. We're out there in the community every day, and we're very acutely aware of what's happening in our community. The good thing is it's basically good. I mean, there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of need in terms of transportation, and it's incumbent upon us to lean forward the best way we can, and to listen and work together with the stakeholders. And this goes for, in my opinion, from the MPO to, of course, the county themselves and all the communities within the county, all the cities. And so, it's a very big task. But when an opportunity presents itself, such as this, and the request is there, the message, what I'm hoping to convey, and as chair, I'm listening. We're listening. Each of us are on here, or we're put on here to come, and it's on behalf of Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority, and we all bring something to the table, and collectively, what the result of that, we hope, is that we're working together and we're listening and we're trying to move things along. Understanding that they're all important, and that they're very big projects with very big costs associated with them. But the challenge to staff and to each other is to listen and to be here and to lean forward and make every effort that we can. And so that was the spirit of how we approached this that day. I think it was very good dialogue, and I think that the way that we approached it, I was very comfortable with it. And again, just waiting to hear back and see what can be the next steps so that we can get going.
Chairman, Directors, yeah, and I failed to mention the other stakeholder in the room was TxDOT. So TxDOT was also present at that meeting, and they provided some guidance and advice on how they recommend we proceed. And obviously, one of the things they recommended is that we all partner up, because that's probably the best way to get the project delivered, is through a partnership between all the entities that have the same goal.
Yeah. So that's basically the report on the Western Loop topic, and it's something that we'll continue. We'll continue working and making every effort and certainly keeping everyone informed. And we obviously can't move forward or won't move forward until it comes to the board and we understand and we document exactly what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So hopefully more coming soon, and I know that that'll be the case. So that's it for item under the chairman's report. Let's move on to item number 2.
Yes.
Staff reports.
Chairman Directors, item 2A is report on program management activity for the 365 tollway. Ruben Alfaro will give a brief report, and then that'll be followed by 2B, a report on construction activity by Ramon Navarro.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. I'm going to present to you updates on development activities. For this past month, the overweight permit summary and some outreach updates that we have been taking care of. So going through the map, as we know, we have the 16 routes for the overweight corridor. So for the month of December 1st to December 31st of 2024, we had a total of 5,510 permits issued for a total amount collected of $1,126,114. Of those, $24,114 were convenience fees, and the total permit fees was $1,102,000. Of that, 148,770 came to the RMA. 12,949 went to local off system, and 923,752 went to TechDOT for the on system roads. Following with the comparison, the monthly comparison, as we can see, on the month of December, we did exceed last year's numbers by a little, but we did have a reduction from November to December, a slight reduction, but we're still way above what we had for the year of 2023. For the yearly overweight report from January 1st of 2024 to December 31st of 2024, the total of permits issued was 74,115. We collected a total amount of $14,022,614. Of those, 13,721,000 were the permit fees, excluding the convenience fees. And from that, 1,852,335 came to the RMA for the total of the year. Accumulated from 2014 to 2024, there's a total of 388,823 permits, a total amount collected of 68 million, a little bit over 68 million. And from that, 8.8 million has come to the RMA in the 10 years that we have implemented this overweight permit. Following with outreach updates, just touching up on the past presentation and the upcoming presentations that we have. On December 19 of 2024, we presented at the RGB partnership. January 16 of this year, 2025, we presented the Bridge Connect session, giving information about the overweight permits to the community, to the industrial community here in Pharr, and the transportation community. We also had the I-69 connector public scoping meeting we were going to attend, but it was canceled. So they'll have one, I believe, coming up. We did present today at the City of Pharr Partners in Development meeting that was held here in the City of Pharr. We presented to developers and engineers the process to get permits for 365 and some updates on 365 toll construction and our progress. Next week, we have a workshop presentation at City of McAllen City Commission. That's going to be January 27th. After that, the next day, we have a presentation with South Texas Manufacturing Association, again, giving updates on 365 toll construction and our strategic plan updates. And then we're going to be present at the RGB International Rail Conference on January 30th and 31 to be in a panel to answer any questions and give updates as well for strategic plan and the RMA plans.
Yeah, excuse me. I think it was last year, the former mayor from Mission had made a presentation to the board regarding rail system or a rail program. Is that this or is this completely different?
So,
I'm talking about the last bullet.
yes, sir. So it is a part of that. It is the same group. It is Triangle Railroad, which presented to the board of directors last year. This is actually their first kind of conference. And their goal is, and the invitations were sent out to all the board members. They sent invitations to each one of those, and Maria forwarded them to you. But their goal is to bring awareness on the need for rail in the region. And that's really kind of what the focus of their conference is going to be next week. And so in section C, we do actually have a rail component that we've adopted as part of our strategic plan. And so the toll road, or I shouldn't say the toll road, the loop system is about a 300-foot typical right of way to accommodate, main lanes and frontage roads and overpasses. However, in section C, we have a 400-foot typical, and 100 feet of that is to accommodate rail, future rail, and two railroads in bidirectional for two-way traffic. So about 50 feet for each rail line. So we have that in our plan is a rail component for section C.
I have a question. So is a rail mile two ways like you described cheaper per mile than, let's say, what we're building now, or is it more expensive on a per mile basis?
On a per mile basis, it's cheaper,
Okay.
a rail mile. The right of way is the same, but the construction cost is a lot less.
What about
Right.
environmental? Same?
Same, the environmental is the same. It's the same environmental cost. Right now, our cost per mile on the loop is about 23 million a mile is,
Please forgive me, but are you talking about us constructing a rail?
no, we're just,
Easement?
we're probably looking at acquiring the right of way for a rail and then a long-term lease with somebody to come in and build a rail, because we're not in the rail business, so.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure
yeah.
because the way you said it, it's like, oh, I think we're in the construction business. You're talking about just an easement and leasing part of the easement.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the entities that have shown interest in the past is we had a series of meetings with Kansas City Southern Rail, approached us about a decade ago, and they're interested in a rail component in the valley because they purchased the rail in Ferromex in Mexico, is owned by Kansas City Southern. Don't know the corporate structure, but they basically own the railroad in Mexico. And the closest rail line they have is the one that runs from Houston to Alice over to Laredo. And so they want to provide connectivity between that, so they can have their own crossing, because the two crossings, the one in Laredo and the one in Brownsville, are controlled by Union Pacific. So they want to control their own destiny, in other words. And so they've talked to us about building a rail. But they asked us to consider a rail component. We've had that component on the books for about 10 years.
And then lastly, on the development side, we worked on an RFQ for the environmental clearance for all of the sections, so we can have statement of qualifications received by the companies, and then go out there and get consultants to work on this. It's currently going through the staff review and the legal review, and then we'll probably have it to you guys for approval. And that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Alfaro. So a few comments. Thank you very much for your report, and just a few things to add under this area or this portion of the report. Very pleased, and I just want to say thanks for your outreach updates. I think that's critically important, on behalf of the RMA, our efforts to be out in the community, and I appreciate those updates and know that's happening. One that I didn't see on here, but it probably a little impromptu, is our very own Ramon also gave a nice interview, which is a form of outreach, I guess, for I guess the Guardian, maybe it was, and thank you for that. I thought that it updated folks and made an effort to outreach and let folks know what we're doing and what we're up to. So very much like seeing that. And speaking of outreach, and in your report for the overweight corridors,
Mhm.
I'll tag on to that and just add that I was asked to visit, with some of the overweight corridor users. I know that's a hot topic out there right now. It's being discussed, and I'd like it known that certainly from the RMA's perspective, we're trying to lean forward and be up to speed, with what's happening in our community. Obviously, the overweight corridors are critical for the movement of goods and services and so forth in our community. Uh, it was a topic that I brought up even at the MPO meeting, and one that we hope to continue to look at and understand, fully understand, and see what we can do as an RMA. So we're listening and trying to make an effort. Obviously, we're very appreciative of the um, um, officials that are out there ensuring that we're safe and that our public is safe and that we're following the laws, and which of course is important. So it's a topic that wanted to make all the directors aware of and understand what's happening out in the community. I'm sure y'all are hearing some of it also, but thank y'all for staff for your outreach, for what you're doing out there, and for your report. Okay.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I may, how was that meeting? I wanted to attend it. I think it was with maybe TxDOT and DPS. I think DPS might have been there. Were they there? And I think it was some individuals from Donna or something that had been ticketed for.
Yeah, so their main concern or the main issue is that uh, there's a misunderstanding on the overweight permit, and they had the understanding for 10 years that they could veer out of the overweight corridor to deliver. And this wasn't being enforced until lately, and that's what brought the issue back, because they think that because they got a permit to be on those roads, they can go deliver and go off route, which is not allowed.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's obviously a concern from both sides. Uh, DPS is doing what they're supposed to be doing. In my view, they're upholding the laws, and on the other hand, the users, from my understanding, and again, I was not specifically at the meeting, but I watched the recap of it on video, and I did meet individually, separate from that, with one of the um, folks out at the Port of Harlingen in Cameron County, and what it is that they're going through to try to do what they do every day. And again, from my perspective, the good news is there's a lot of activity out there, and there are a lot of folks that right here in our community just doing some incredible things. Um, it when you're a regular um, guy making hamburgers out every day out there and doing that's your business, you don't really fully understand what it is that everyone else is doing, but you lean in a little bit, and you quickly recognize that there's things going from the bridges to the port, from the port to the bridges, from the bridges north. We have that again. I'm very upbeat about. We've got a lot of really good things going on there, but that just means that there's a lot of work also to do. And uh, as an RMA, as the RMA for Hidalgo County, that's the realization here, is that we've got to keep our eyes and ears open. We've got to understand what's happening out there. We do have to go out and outreach and tell folks what it is that we're doing, and then also listen to what um, the stakeholders want us to hear about. And that's a big topic right now, and it's a very important topic. So I wanted to kind of highlight that and bring it to everyone's attention. Back to the issue, and Ruben, the specific meeting he's talking about. I know a lot of folks it's like, hey, for 10 years we've been doing it this way. And what came to my mind is sometimes silence is acceptance, and you have to. I do see it from both sides. The message to us, I believe, the message that I take away from that is is how can we work with everybody and sooner rather than later help stay legal, keep everybody safe, keep the community safe, but also lean forward so that we can listen to the stakeholders out here and what is it that we can do within our authority and our ability to lean forward and to let the goods and services flow. So thank you again for your report. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item.
Good afternoon still. It's not evening. Ramon Navarro for the record, Chief Construction Engineer for the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority, and I'm here to provide you with a brief overview of our 3 concurrent construction projects that we have ongoing. We are, as you all are very much aware, we have a wetland mitigation project going on about 2.5 miles south of Granjeno. This is where we're creating a man-made wetland. And for clarification, we had been, there's in your packet is included is a modification to the notice to proceed letter. There was some confusion on our behalf via the consultant. The dates for substantial completion are March 20th and, excuse me, let me get that. The substantial completion date revised is February 18th, 2025, and final completion would be March 20th, 2025. There was some confusion as far as the issuance of the notice to proceed with the insurability and the umbrella and the necessary parameters that were needed for that, and there was some delay in issuing that insurability that the contractor clarified, and the consultant did revise the NTP to reflect that. That has no ill impact on any of our projects other than the wetland mitigation project. And I don't see any negativity on extending that date. Going forth, you'll see the existing contract that we had with MITRES, or that we have with MITRES. You'll see various reports from all the agencies that are working on here. One is from the contractor and one is from the inspection company. And ultimately, I'd like to refer to the schedule. You'll see that everything is falling in line accordingly. And we anticipate them to start the clay liner on the levee system here mid-month of next month. And we are currently reviewing the seeds, the plants, and that they are meeting all of the requirements through the federal agencies and getting approval for those. Those will be the majority of the work. As you can see, they're approximately 42% complete, and anticipate with the month's time, they anticipate having substantial completion. And the majority of that is with the actual planting and sodding, and that they will have a short work period to complete that with. Other than that, there's pictures of the dirt mining, as I like to tell them, that they're doing out there. And that concludes my report with MITRES. There is a change order on the agenda for consideration, and that is a cost savings of approximately 157,000, I believe, with the dirt and the ultimate working with that. I know there was some confusion at the beginning there was also some issues with payment. The address we had on file, the checks went out to their former address, and they had changed their address, so they were claiming that we hadn't made the first 2 payments to them. They just got lost in the mail. But that has all been clarified, and they've been brought to speed on those payments. Yes, sir.
Just a real quick question. Number one, we talked about some cost savings.
Yes, sir.
Now we're going in a different direction.
The cost savings was not as substantial as we had originally discussed, but it's still a cost savings. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Number two, do you happen to remember how deep the well is?
The well is approximately 400 feet, sir.
400.
Yes, sir.
Getting good water out of that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There was some intricacies with with how we were as we contractually obligated to provide the the neighbor with some water. It was his well that we acquired, and there was some technology issues with how we were going to be having a farmer going and calling us and having to computerize and release the water. So we made it real easy, and we put a spider valve, and he'll be able to go and open it and close it as needed and get his water. So we've made that that call in the field as a field call or a field change, and the pipe and water should be available when we do substantial completion. Moving on to the toll integration project. This project goes hand in hand with our heavy highway project. This is CISA construction or SICE. They are approximately 25% complete. We had some pending concerns with hardware and materials. We've clarified those, and we've got a delivery date of March 13th for the first gantry. We are working diligently with our electrical providers to be able to have the power out there for them to be able to build this up, and we can initiate our factory testing on a lot of these cameras, sensors, etc. Our first location is going to be at approximately station 703, which is at the Ansalduas connector there between Granjeno and Glasscock. But with that being said, we hope to have the electrical power out there and come forth with you next month with some progress reports. The meat and potatoes, of course, is a 365 toll project. This was a project issued out to Pullis Construction. To date, we've issued 14 change orders for still a negative cost of $8.6 million. Change order 14 was approved by the board last month at a maximum cost and a maximum price of approximately $492,000. And we were able to save approximately $43,000, and revised the 14R is the cost savings and savings on that change order. We continue with construction, ceding to our partnering agencies and the irrigation for the farmers. We continue with bridges. We have on this program, we have met this week with the Hidalgo County Irrigation District number 3 to acquire their authorization and proceeding at the McAllen Main Canal. We are replacing a bypass and putting 72-inch pipe to put this crossing underground. We hope to have this done by mid-month next month. Here you'll see some depictions of the drainage within the retaining wall sections at 10th Street. This is looking west off of 10th Street. Here we have looking east towards 10th Street. We have the San Juan Main Canal. This is item of priority that we need to get on the table in the plan and proposal from the contractor. We've expressed our immediate concern on how important it is to get this captured, as we have approximately 6 months left on the project. And we look forward to some very detailed discussions, not only with the contractor, but with our partners at the Hidalgo County Irrigation District number 2.
What will that look like when it's done?
That'll have a bridge going over the canal, sir. And basically we'll have a bypass at where the ditch and the embankment are on the west side. And once that's completed, the bypass or box culvert will remain in place for overflow and emergency purposes or drainage purposes. And we'll have a bridge over the main canal. This is another photo. We've set beams and completed the retaining walls at 10th Street. And this is a photo or a perspective looking east at US 281. One thing to note on all of these photos is that we've got drainage pipe or we've got irrigation pipe on all these items. So this one particular location is directly impacted with a change order that we approved last month for the cast in place manholes. We are working diligently on getting those in the ground and putting that pipe into place so that we're able to continue with the substructure and the actual bridge construction on these locations. Here is the existing bypass or detour that we have at I Road and Thomas. We did run into some unknown utilities at this location. We had a old abandoned field drain that no one knew if it was uncertainties, if it was water or gas or what it was. So that has caused about a week's delay, but we have gotten to the origin of it. It was brackish water. We capped it, plugged it, and moved forward with the construction at this area. And this is looking, this is a Dicker Road looking to the northeast side or southeast side of the project. This is where we have the gas line, where the green part remains between Thomas and Dicker. We just wrapped up a very productive call with the gas companies, and we hope to obtain the construction permit from these folks sometime next week to continue progressing with the project in that particular area. This is looking to the end of the project. This is the San Juan Road, or what used to be San Juan Road. And this concludes my report. May I entertain any questions or concerns at this time? Yes, sir.
What will happen eventually, say for example, with Anaya Road and Highline Road between like Veterans and then of course the 365 tollway going towards Stewart?
That,
Because if you travel on Anaya right now, there's no road there anymore. So
Yes,
will
sir.
the city come in there and fix that?
yes, sir. That is a city local government road. There are long-term plans. There are some projects, Category 7 projects in the MPO, along in the MPO to look to improve that. But those would be directly invoked with the overweight permits, and that all of that area is, as we know, is developing into heavy industrial. And it would be on the city's behalf to be able to provide a substructure or a structure, a roadway sufficient to cover overweight.
Best guess, when do you think that would be done? 12 to 36 months?
I would presume that that may be invoked upon our substantial completion, which is at the end of the year. And thereafter, the I Road Veterans a section had been let by the city. It was put on hold for some reason. There was one particular section of it, and that's the intersection that we're currently constructing. But there is long-term goals from the city. I believe they're on their planning, and you can find that information on the MPO list. Yes, sir. Any additional questions or concerns?
Anything else for our engineer, Ramon? Ramon, thank you for your report as well. It's a beautiful thing what we see going on out there, and I also think it's appropriate that from the RMA that we thank all our stakeholders, particularly the drainage district that I know you're working hand in hand with, and everyone involved, so that we can see things like this come to realization in our community. And obviously, using the mantra of wanting it quicker, the more we're working together, the quicker we can get these done. We're on to the next. Having been out there and done the tour with you, it's fantastic. And to take a page from what we know, we hear our partners over at TxDOT say, we're not building a road, we're economic developing. This is economic development in our community. It's amazing what this is going to do, and the things that we have planned in the future. So thanks for your report. Keep up the good work out there, and we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 3 is our consent agenda.
Yep.
Pilar?
Chairman and Directors, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the governing body and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, if discussion is desired, that item or items will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Got a motion. Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 4, our regular agenda. Turning it back over to you, Pilar.
Yes, sir. Okay. Item 4A is Resolution 2025-02, approval and consideration of a resolution adopting the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority's legislative agenda for the 89th regular session of the Texas State Legislature. Chairman, Directors, if you'll go to your packet and you'll look at the resolution, and after all the recitals, um, down to where it says now therefore, um, and you go to section 2A. So section 2 reads, the board hereby adopts the following legislative priorities. A is the addition of roadways to the, or of roadway to the oversized overweight corridor to address legacy maintenance costs, to wit, the 365 tollway, an off-system roadway. 2, West Doffing Road from the intersection of Doffing Canal Road to South Veterans Boulevard, which is formerly Spur 29, for a distance of 0.08 miles east of that intersection, an off-system roadway. And 3, any other off-system roadways and highways to be maintained by the authority. So that's one legislative request. B is for the ability for the Department of Public Safety to establish the gross weight of a vehicle. That is being requested because right now, when we issue an overweight permit and Texas Department of Public Safety pulls them over, they have portable scales and they'll weigh them. And a lot of times they can get in compliance with whatever issue they have with the weights. The way the statute's written, we can only accept weights from scales that are approved by the Texas Department of Agriculture in Texas, or by Profeco in Mexico. The Texas Department of Agriculture does not regulate the scales that the Texas Department of Public Safety utilizes. They operate and they calibrate and they maintain their own scales. And so this is a request for efficiency, because a lot of times what'll happen is a truck will get pulled over, they'll weigh them, they'll say, hey, you've exceeded the gross, legal gross vehicle weight, which is 80,000 pounds, you need an overweight permit. Our overweight permit system is online, so the driver can get online real quick on his phone and apply for a permit, but what he can't do is he can't weigh his truck without going to look for an approved scale. So rather than having the truck trek all over the place looking for an approved scale, DPS says, if you'll accept our weight, we'll give them our weight ticket. They're in compliance and they can go down, move on down the road to their destination. And so this is an attempt to improve the efficiency of the overweight system, but we require statutory authority to do that. So that's the next ask.
You need statutory authority from the state
Yes.
or something that the U.S. Agriculture Department is requesting?
Well, the way the statute.
You lost me.
So the way the statute is written right now,
Which one, the state or the U.S. Agriculture?
the state statute that governs overweight permits,
Right.
it says that we can only accept weights from scales that have been approved by the Texas Department of Agriculture.
The RMA can only accept.
Right,
Oh, okay.
for a
We.
permit.
We
Yeah,
can only accept.
we can only
Oh,
accept,
I thought it was U.S. Agriculture. It's we.
we can
Oh.
only accept weights from scales that have been approved by the Texas Department of Agriculture. So they go out, they inspect the scale, they give it their seal of approval, and then we can accept the weights from that scale. If they're not approved by the Texas Department of Agriculture, we can't accept them. But the scenario I just described is what happens. A truck's going down the road, he gets pulled over, they weigh them, they say you're out of compliance, you're overweight. The driver can get on real quick, get a permit electronically, he can do it with his phone. But now the missing part is they have to have their tear weight available. And because DPS is not regulated by Texas Department of Agriculture, in other words, their scales are not approved by them, because they operate and they calibrate and they maintain their own scales. We just need authority to accept their scale weights so that the driver, instead of having to go look for an approved scale, they can accept DPS's weight and then get on down the road to their destination. So it's again, we're trying to make the process more efficient.
So would be accepting TxDOT's weights,
DPS's
DPS's weights,
Yes.
and USDA's.
and USDA's
So we
weights.
have those. Is there anybody else weighing?
No, that's it.
Yes. Is it U.S. or
No, it's not
Texas?
USDA, it's Texas.
Texas Department.
Well, that's why I was confused because you were saying U.S. Agriculture. It's Texas.
I'm sorry, Texas Department of
Okay.
Agriculture. In Texas, weights and measures are regulated by the Texas Department of Agriculture.
They still get a citation, or is that like an option? Like, oh.
That's an option to get them in compliance so they won't get a citation. So DPS, the local DPS is trying to be a little more user-friendly, for lack of a better word. That we pull you over, you're over 10,000 pounds, and instead of giving a citation, what they'd like to do is say, apply for a permit online, because DPS has our portal, has a law enforcement portal in our system where they can go verify that they did get a permit. So the component that's missing is the weight. Yeah, and it, you know, and the local DPS that regulates a lot of these trucks, primarily the Pharr Port of Entry. I mean, they got to deal with 60,000 trucks a month that they're whatever they're, and so they're just trying to make things easier for the end user to get in compliance and move on down the road without having to issue a
Understand it
citation.
makes things easier, but that kind of, it's not, I mean, if they're giving you the option to buy, then what, no, then why are you gonna, you can risk it and go without getting the overweight permit. If you don't get pulled over, you don't have to. Oh, if I get pulled over, I'll just I'll just pay $200. I won't pay whatever the ticket is. You know, I just think
This
it's.
gentleman to my left sounds like a good lawyer.
Yeah, so
That's very true.
this request is coming from DPS because, like I said, they're trying to regulate 60,000 trucks a month, and so they're, instead of, you know, telling the trucker, you're parked there until another truck comes, you offload your commodity, split the load up into a legal weight, and then, you know, they're just trying to be more user friendly.
And I think to maybe answer Sergio's question is the penalties if you get caught are very severe, and it's like one strike and then the next time it's.
Yeah, so we've seen penalties as low as $2,500 and as high as $10,000.
So exactly. So if I have a truck and I'm running on the overweight corridor, I'm gonna risk it. Because he's gonna pull me over and he's gonna let me buy the $200. He's not gonna give me a ticket. He's gonna let me get the overweight
It's an
permit.
option.
It's an
It's
option,
a
yeah.
discretion.
Yeah, it's a discretion.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's discretion. And that's happening already. There's a lot of trucks that are running the gauntlet without permits. And so,
I think the alternative would be to have a partial penalty
Yeah.
instead of 2,500, 2,000, maybe like still charge them $500 and give them the option to buy the permit.
so let me just tell you why this is advantageous to the authority. If they give a citation,
We
right?
don't get any money.
Zero for us. They issue a permit, it's revenue for us.
Yeah, yes, that's true. But what Sergio is saying is correct too. That if in fact these guys are running around and they take a chance and risk and not buy the permit, then how many are actually getting away and not paying us?
So
So the
I,
question becomes is still penalize them, but penalize them smaller version and then give them the option to buy the permit.
so I
Because
can
if
tell,
not, Sergio's correct. They're just, I mean, anybody, and not just them, you and me and anybody. If
Yes,
we
sir.
can kind of chance it and you still have the option to buy it anyway, well, we're gonna just risk it.
so to answer your question, just kind of break it down further for you, Director, is TxDOT conducted a weight and motion study several years ago to determine how many trucks are actually overweight without permits.
Right.
The trucks coming northbound from Mexico are all in compliance. They get their permits, they have all their paperwork. If they're overweight, they have their overweight permit, they've obtained it. It's the trucks on the United States side that are running on this side. They're not going across the border. They're going from the field to the packing shed or warehouse to warehouse. Those are the ones that are running overweight without permits, as that's what the study determined.
That's because the Mexican trucks get weighed as soon as they cross. So
Right.
they have to be in compliance.
Yeah, the Mexican trucks don't take a chance. They get a permit. If they think they're a couple of pounds overweight, they'll get a permit to be on the safe side.
Well, and that's fine. But what does that have to do with them still getting penalized at least something? Because if you don't get penalized and just get stopped and get the option, they'll just buy it at that time. I'm with you on that. But whether they come from the north or from the south or here in between, why does it matter?
Well, I think DPS is getting a mandate to be a little more user friendly.
Discretionary.
Yeah, discretionary and user friendly. If there's a way to get them in compliance, get them in compliance.
And I would suspect that, I mean, I really sincerely appreciate the effort, really. It's again, back to moving the goods and services in our community and letting the flow of goods, economic development happen. So I like that. I appreciate it. I would suspect that they're probably a way to determine whether this is a repeat person or if they're doing that each time, and and they can hit them with a penalty.
But we know who they are because it's the locals, is what you're saying, right, Pilar?
It's primarily US trucks that are in violation. And again, DPS can verify all of that because they have access to our system. They have what we call it the law enforcement portal. So they can log in and they can look up a company, they can look up a truck, and they can see if they're getting permits or not getting permits, you know.
Is there such a thing in that portal where a gentleman actually has been stopped, a trucker has been stopped, and he's given the option, so he purchases the permit? Is that particular option actually documented?
DPS does have that
They do?
capacity, absolutely.
They do have the capacity, but are they
Because
doing
they
it?
know how many times I've been pulled over and given a warning.
Okay,
Yeah,
there we
so
go.
they keep track of it.
Yeah, so
person.
we do not track
We
that.
don't, they do.
What I can track is I can track a permit was applied for and paid for, but no weight was entered, so it was never activated.
But then there will be no real serious consequence on, because there is no enforcement clause for those people that actually are just exercising their option consistently when they get stopped versus what the chairman is saying. If the same person gets stopped 3 or 4 or 5 times and he just buys them all the time, so what good does it do us?
I think, as Director Sines indicated, I think if you get pulled over and DPS goes into their system and said, oh, this is the 4th time I've pulled them over for not having an overweight permit, they're probably not gonna say, they're gonna tell them, here's your citation. I've already given you 3 chances to
And
get
that's
on the
fine,
system and
that's
get in
fine, but we
compliance.
don't want to, can we know that for a fact that that's what's happening? Because if it is, then that's fine.
I'm pretty sure it is, but I can verify with the local DPS office.
Can we charge more for a permit that is issued by DPS? Meaning you can chance it, but you get pulled over and
And that's,
DPS.
the same thing I'm saying. I'm saying a small penalty. He's saying an added fee.
So no, we're capped.
We're just trying.
We're capped. We're capped at the maximum fee that we can charge.
You did just start this conversation
Yeah.
by saying that we get paid when they buy the permit. So we're just trying to, and just think about an extra fee for getting an
Well, I
option.
mean, because that would encourage you to get weighed at a
Yeah,
scale the
yeah.
proper way and not to do it kind of when you get pulled over, when you get caught red-handed.
Yeah. So one of the discussions we have pending right now that I'm waiting for a meeting with the state engineer for TxDOT, and that's who under his umbrella, they administer the overweight permit system statewide. And so that's one of the discussions we have pending about cost. We know that maintenance costs are escalating. We know that repair costs are escalating. And so one of the discussions he wants to have is, should we request that the permit fee be raised? And we think it should be about $250 now instead of $200. And so that will require legislative action also. So we need to have that discussion so we can amend our legislative priority to maybe include an increase in the fee. And when we do that, we can probably ask for surcharge if your
Well, just think
penalties.
about it. Everybody does this.
Yeah.
If somebody gets in trouble and you get a probation, there's going to be extra fees in charge for that, right? I mean, if you get caught and you're going to exercise your option, there should be an extra fee for that.
And it would
I mean,
make sense
just-
to raise our fees too. We haven't raised them since 2017, right?
2018, yeah.
2018.
We'll just let our legislature know that. I mean, I just think it's a good idea. I don't know how many people get actually exercise the option. Do we know?
None,
Well, none yet,
none, because they don't have the ability to do it. So they're asking for at least the ability to do it.
How many people are getting stopped and get tickets?
Right now, they're getting a citation because there's no ability to use discretion.
Yes, but my question is, do we know how many?
I do not. I'd have to ask DPS for that number, and I don't know if they'll share it with us, but we can ask for it. Yeah. And then finally, the last item is item C, an increase in the optional vehicle registration fee for transportation projects to address border congestion, safety, and economic development. So Chairman and Directors, right now, the RMA receives, if you register your vehicle in Hidalgo County, there is a $10 fee that goes to County Road and Bridge. And then there's a $10 fee on your annual registration that goes to the Mobility Authority. So that $10 fee right now generates about $7.5 million in revenue for it. And some of that we have pledged to service the debt that we've issued for the projects. And we'd like to see if we can get that local fee increased, possibly another $5, so we can generate about another $3.5 million in revenue a year, which would probably let us, and this is probably a Colby question, but I don't know, 60, 70, $80 million of debt that we could go borrow to accelerate projects, kickstart A, C, E, F.
Where's the fee again? This is the registration fee?
Vehicle, when you register your vehicle every year in Hidalgo County, there's two fees on there. There's a $10 fee for Hidalgo County Road and Bridge, and there's a $10 fee that says Mobility Authority, and that comes to us. Yeah, and we, by $5. Yeah, yeah. So the $10 fee currently generates about $7.5 million for us a year in revenue. So another $5 would generate maybe three and three quarters of $1 million. That would give us the ability to probably go out and borrow 70, $80 million to accelerate projects.
I have two questions, Bilal. One is, where would that $15 put us in comparison to other RMAs across the state?
I know I looked at that number before, and I don't have those off the top of my head, but I can run you a report. There's only a handful of counties that are charging the mobility fee. I think it's Cameron County, Hidalgo County, Webb, and maybe Bear County. But it's just a handful that are doing it across the state where they're charging that mobility fee, and we're one of the counties. So I can get you that information and send you a report on
So
that.
how do the other RMAs generate income?
Vehicle registration fee, some of them.
But you just said only 4 were charging it.
Well, there's only like 12 RMAs across the state.
Okay.
And so maybe a third are charging with vehicle registration fees. I'm not real sure on the revenue structure. Some of those are already operating toll roads, and so that's probably where a lot of their revenue is coming from. I don't know where their seed money came from, because some of those have been in existence 20, 30, 40 years. But we can probably do a little research and find that out for you, just to give you a comparison across the state.
And then the second question, you spoke about potentially raising the overweight fee. Would that be in this legislative session?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But then I just need to I met with the state engineer, Lance Simmons, who's the engineer in charge for the whole state of Texas at TxDOT. We met probably September, October. And one of the things that we had pending was that come January, we needed to sit down and talk about raising the overweight fee because of escalating maintenance and repair costs.
Thank you. Would your proposal increase the overall registration fee, or would it just be the allocation?
It would raise the overall registration fee. So our portion would probably raise to $15 a year. Right now it's at $10 a year.
But like the overall fee that I pay for registration says $85, so now it's going to be
90, yes, sir.
Now, the state of Texas has to approve that, don't they?
Yes, it requires legislative approval, because we have, so the way the statute is, it's specifically for Hidalgo County. It's not a blanket across the state of Texas. Hidalgo County was given authority to charge a mobility fee.
Yes, but what I'm trying to get to is the likelihood of them approving this to increase this. What
Don't know.
I've talked to different people. And
yeah, it just depends. Yeah. And so right now we're looking for somebody to sponsor our bill. So we've got our legislative affairs consultant working on that, and Blakely also works on that. So we're looking for a sponsor for our bills. So this is something that we have proposed in the past, and probably the last 2 legislative sessions, and haven't gotten any traction. So it's not a new ask. It's just that time of year to ask again. So.
Well, I would have to suspect that, back to working together. First, I'd like to believe that the majority of the, legitimate businesses that are set up in our communities to do what they do, they want to be in compliance, and they need mechanisms for doing things more efficient, better, faster. Uh, you know, the idea that more dollars might be accessible for the RMA so that we can do what we do, you know, I'm going to have to believe that that's up to and including everything we do is related to transportation, up to and including the, you know, the overweight issues. You know, how do we work with the communities to back to the original topic here is how can we, you know, keep things moving and keep things flowing. And this is one way. This is a mechanism. And as far as those you know, companies, those businesses that are out there doing what they do, you know, uh, haven't, like I said, met with one in particular recently that moves literally thousands upon thousands of gallons of fuel daily. Um, I would think that if they look at it as from a business perspective, an investment is minuscule in terms of what that fee is going to be on a truck, you know, so that they can flow and that the roads are good and that they're safe and that they can do what they do. And so I don't think from that part of the constituency there would be pushback if, of course, you know, the dollars coming in are being used to go right back to helping them do what they do.
Yeah. And just to give you some perspective on our fee growth, you know, and that's driven by the number of vehicles that are registered in the county. We've seen the vehicle registration fee was first enacted in 2008. So we've got almost 20 years. We've got about 17 years of history. And we typically grow about 3% a year from prior year with new vehicles in the county. And, you know, all that's driven by more rooftops, more vehicles, more drivers, registration. Anywhere from 2.5 to 3% growth a year. And when we budget, we try to be conservative, the staff does, and we only use about 1% growth rate when we budget. So there's always, we leave it, so it basically overperforms for us as far as excess revenues. And we use those excess revenues to build our reserve fund so that if, you know, our rainy day fund, for lack of a better word, in case there's an emergency or there's a project or there's a change order or there's, you know, something unanticipated, we have a reserve fund. Right now, our reserve fund is sitting at approximately $9 million, which seems like a lot, but on the scale of the projects that we're constructing, it's not a lot. It's maybe 4 or 5% of one of our construction projects. But you know, and so that's one of the things we do with the excess fees that we generate after we service the debt is that we're trying to build the authority's reserve fund so that if there's an emergency or unexpected expenditures, the board has the leeway to address those because we've got a healthy reserve. And right now we're sitting at about, that's at about, I want to say 800 or 900 days of operating reserve. Government's recommended to have at least 90 days. And so we're way in excess of that, but we're way in excess of that because of the scale of our projects.
Understood. Okay.
And so staff is recommending approval of the legislative agenda as presented.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Can I just
Yes,
ask
go
one more
ahead, go ahead.
question? Pilar, the section 3 says that members, consultants, and agents and so forth can speak regarding this. You mentioned that in the past it's gone forward, but we have not had a sponsor.
No, we've had sponsors, but you know, sometimes it doesn't make it out of committee. Sometimes it doesn't get on the calendar, you know, and so it can be challenging to get a bill through the legislative process, you know, and so then it's got to be approved on the Senate and then it's got to be approved on the House side. And sometimes they don't get to it, you know, because of the magnitude of business the legislature has to conduct in a 6-month window every 2 years, you know.
Do our consultants that go up there and champion?
Yes.
They know this is.
Yeah. And sometimes staff will go up and testify if we, you know, if we get to a hearing, you know, we're making progress. If we don't get on the calendar to hearing, then, we know we're probably not gonna get, we're not gonna get anywhere, this legislative session. If we get to that point, we'll ask a board member to attend if they're available to testify also. But I've testified several times and get about 5 minutes to tell our story, and so that's just the way the system works.
Going back to 2A, it says, address legacy maintenance costs. How much do you think that is?
So some of those roads are already in place, like Doffing Road, and so we don't know what that cost is, but we know that it's already started, and we won't know till we have to perform the first maintenance cycle. We've got estimates. We think it's going to cost X dollars a mile or X dollars a square yard, and I can provide a report for you. But it's really not until we get into the first maintenance cycle where we say, hey, this road needs an overlay or it needs to be reconstructed, that we'll know what those legacy costs are.
And there's a lot of variables that go into that.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that we went to a concrete structure on the 365 tollway, because it's more capital cost up front, but it's a lower maintenance cost in the long run. Yeah. So compared to, we did the analysis, and just to tell you, on the 365 tollway over the life cycle, and I think we used a 30-year life cycle, it's about a $90 million difference, concrete and asphalt. In other words, asphalt is about $90 million more expensive over a 30-year lifespan to maintain, because we basically have to go in and mill and overlay about every 7 years, 5 to 7 years, where concrete, we go in every 5 years, do joint maintenance, and then we don't have to do an overlay till about year 30. So it's just, but concrete is triple the cost up front. But it's about a third of the cost on the back end.
I mean, you have I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have a rough idea? I mean, this is $10 million. Is it $50,000? I mean, I hate to approve something without any type of number behind it.
Which number? The legacy maintenance?
Yes, sir.
So the legacy maintenance right now is going to be covered by the overweight fee. So whatever it costs is going to come out of those. Is going to come out of those fees. I think I can get Ruben to work on an estimate, because right now we only have about 1.1 miles that we would be responsible for legacy maintenance, and that's out of 58 miles. So it shouldn't be a whole lot of money, Director.
Okay, any other questions on our legislative agenda? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Next item. Pilar.
Next item is 4B, Resolution 2025-03, consideration and approval of change order number 1 to the contract with Midwest Services for the Gran Henlo Wetland Mitigation Site Project for a deduct of the maximum payable amount. And so basically, went in and the consultant redesigned the project, looking for the ability for some efficiencies in the design and able to save some money. Basically, we were able to come up with $187,915.96 in savings to the project. So this is let me see, the project is $5,850,993.87. So this would take it down to about $5.6 million. So
When we initially talked about it, there was a proposed amount of how much savings?
about $1 million is where we were initially. One of the challenges that we ran into was that we as part of the design, we went in there and did soil investigation. In other words, we gridded out and bored to see what material was suitable. There was less suitable material on site than what we had estimated. And I'll tell you why that happened was that this is in a floodplain because it's right on the riverbank. And so when you have floods, sediment is deposited irregularly. And so it wasn't uniform across the site. It was in pockets and fingers of strata, and so we just didn't generate enough in-place material to be able to use for the project that we thought was on site. But we still came up with a savings of 187,000. So staff recommends approval.
When it finally rains and that area floods, I'm gonna think how much money we spent on that area.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna get all washed away, you
Yeah.
know, God forbid.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And just for clarification, Director, the good news is that after we build it, we're not responsible for maintenance. Yeah, we're not responsible. The Valley Land Fund has perpetual maintenance on that, so.
Next item, please.
Next item is 4C, Resolution 2025-04, consideration approval of contract amendment number 1 to the with SWG Engineering for construction inspection services for the Hidalgo County Irrigation District number 2 improvement as part of the 365 tollway. The board of directors back in 2024, in June 2024, we hired SWG to be our third. It is 4C, yes, sir. 4C, yes, sir. Back in June of 2024, we hired SWG to be the authority's third-party inspector just for the irrigation improvements on the 365 tollway. That's a pretty specialized niche. So they're doing the inspections for, we're crossing 3 irrigation districts with the project: Irrigation District 19, Irrigation District 3, and Irrigation District 2. So we brought in an inspector that specializes in irrigation district. At the time, we estimated it was about $50,000 worth of effort. We've expended those funds, and Ramon has estimated we need about another $45,000 to finish up the project inspections. And so this is to increase SWG's contract from $50,000 to $45,000. I mean $95,000. Excuse me. It's an additional $45,000 worth of effort to get us through the next year of inspection on all the irrigation improvements that we have pending. So staff is recommending approval.
Any questions on the item?
One question, Chairman. Are things going smoother now that we have this inspector out there half a day?
No, but no, sir.
I'm not laughing at you, Ranger. I'm laughing at your gesture.
Yeah, no, sir. Although in the last week or two, we've had some really productive meetings with the irrigation district number 2. They have come to the table, and they've been a little more cooperative. So we're finally I think we've finally turned the page with them, and we're getting to where we can ramp up productivity. I think we've gotten past all the detail that they were we've been dealing with, although we've got a change order number 15 that we'll talk about some of that. But I think we're finally turning the page on that. So staff recommends approval.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Moving on. Next item.
Item 4D, Resolution 2025-05, consideration approval of work authorization number 3 to the professional service agreement with Terracon Consultants for construction material testing for the 365 tollway project. Chairman, directors, this is to assign the work that LNG was relieved of about a year ago to Terracon to perform that portion of the work that's still pending on the project. And so this is in the amount of $2,200,000, which was the balance that was left on the prior contract. And so Terracon has the capacity to do this work. And so staff is recommending approval in the amount of $2,200,000 for a revised contract amount of $4,325,031.68.
So in essence, this has been approved, but it's a different vendor.
Yes, we're reassigning it to another vendor because the prior vendor was relieved of this work.
Is it basically the same balance?
Yes, it's the balance of work that still needs to be completed.
I'm just,
No
cu-
penalties. That's just the balance that LNG had
Correct.
carried forward to this
To this vendor, yes, to Terracon.
Same rate, same everything.
Yes.
I'm just curious how that process worked in terms of the new contractor. It's,
So he's not a new contractor. He's currently got a work authorization on the project. We have multiple construction material testing firms working because of the size of this project. No one firm has the capacity
That's
to do
right.
it. So we have Terracon, we have Robert Kistner, we have B2Z. Who else am I missing? We have Atlas. We've got a bunch of consultants
Yeah.
working on the project. So.
understood. I guess the point there being that is if we're having someone else do it, and do they bid on that? And I guess it's entirely possible or probable that it's more today than it was yesterday, rather than necessarily maybe saving something by getting them to bid, but they're
No,
doing
sir,
it. It's all going to be the same.
It's be the same because our rates are locked in. We negotiated those upfront,
Yeah.
awarded all those contracts upfront, and so they're
We're good.
honoring all the rates that we issued with the contracts, which we issued those back in 2021. So those prices have been locked in for the life of the project. And so Terracon is the firm that number one, has the capacity to do it and doesn't have a conflict with the areas assigned to them, because they didn't perform any of the investigative geotechnical work or were part of the design team. So that's another factor
Yeah,
into
that
it
was
is-
my question. This is a continuation on the new testing and new material, right? Is not, we're not going back.
No, that's going to be a separate issue we
That's
still have to address. Yeah, we have another third-party firm that we're going to probably bring to you next month. We're waiting for TxDOT and FHWA to approve that plan for the verification testing, the forensic testing.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
business as usual.
This is business as
From,
usual.
from here on out.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
the chair understood that
Yeah.
this is new. It's not going back. That's another issue.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
another issue. Yeah,
Okay.
that's not I'll call that verification testing for lack of a better word. That one we'll probably bring it to you next month because everybody's blessed the plan. That one requires TxDOT, Federal Highway Administration to bless it before we authorize that
And
work.
we'll talk about that one later.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
sir.
any other questions on the matter? If not, can I get a motion?
Make a motion.
We've got a motion. Second? Anybody?
Second.
All right, I hear a second. All those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Next item.
The next item is item 4E, is resolution 2025-06, consideration and approval of contract amendment number 2, the professional service agreement with Terracon to increase the maximum payable amount for work authorization number 3. So this is just to increase their total contract amount based on the 2.2 million you just approved. And so that takes their total contract amount to $4,325,031.68. Staff recommends approval.
Can I get a motion on that?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, vote aye.
Right.
Opposed, same sign. All right, pass. Next.
Next item is item 4F. That is resolution 2025-08, consideration approval of change order number 15 to that certain contract with Pullis Construction Incorporated for the 365 tollway. Okay, so the contractor was mobilized at Cage Boulevard and the 365 tollway and at Jackson Road and the 365 tollway to construct irrigation improvements for irrigation district number 2 that were part of the plans and specification. The contractor mobilized material, equipment, personnel, and then the irrigation district came on site and ordered a stop work and said that we were not allowed to work on the facility as planned, and their facilities would be unavailable until further notice. So the contractor had to demobilize his equipment, his crews, his materials at both sites and move to another site to do work on other things. That is causing a remobilization fee from the contractor at in the amount of $75,000 per site, for a total of $150,000 for delays. And so that it's not the contractor's fault. This is one of those where it's not the contractor's fault. He was ready to go, and the irrigation district stopped the work from being performed. Since then, they've come back and they've given us a new window, which is in February or March, February next month. It's in February. They've given us a 48-hour window that we can work. And so part of the issue is that we were given a 48-hour window to work. So the contractor had to mobilize a lot of resources, a lot of equipment, a lot of materials to work in that short period of time, and then he had to demobilize it. And so he submitted a claim for $150,000 for the two sites to remobilize in the new construction window that the irrigation district has given us. So as much as staff doesn't want to recommend this change order, we're recommending approval in the amount of $150,000 because the contractor wasn't at fault on this issue.
HDR has reviewed this.
Yes, HDR has reviewed this, yes.
Any causing questions down the road legally? Well, I mean, it wasn't his fault. Was it totally our fault?
No, it was not our fault.
So that's what my question is.
So I
Without
was,
saying it directly. I mean, are we putting this in the back burner? Okay,
yes, sir.
that's fine.
So staff recommends approval of change order number 15 in the amount of $150,000.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Next item.
Let me see, Chairman. I
We-
think we have no further items for the board's consideration.
Need a
All right.
motion to adjourn?
No further items. And that would be no tabled items under item number 5. There are none.
No, sir.
And item number 6.
Yes, sir. We do not have any items to discuss in executive session.
Very good. Then, I think I got a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
This guy,
The gentleman with the
I'm very
hat.
he's actually
perceptive.
reading me.
Yeah, I'm very
I didn't know it was
perceptive.
that instinctive.
Uh,
So move for motion to adjourn, yes.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate everyone's attendance today and the work that we're doing on behalf of Hidalgo County. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.